People, be alert. Protect your homes from destruction. Especially among young people, drugs have lately taken the form of a fashion in our society, and it's hard to tell when that fashion will turn into an addiction. At first it feels pleasurable, then it becomes a habit, and finally it reaches a stage where, if the drug is not available, the body experiences pain, agony, and restlessness. People often begin using drugs thinking they'll stop after one or two times, but later it traps them in addiction. Regardless of how harmful these substances are, their spread is becoming an extremely serious threat to our society. How do addictions to intoxicants develop? People often say you should simply stay away from drugs. But once a person starts, they don't know when they'll be pulled toward more, and then they begin to ruin their own body and life. Why do we become dependent? The truth is that when we use an intoxicating substance, it affects our brain directly, and the brain then produces the cravings we desire. These effects cause the brain's nerves to forcibly release the hormone dopamine, which produces a temporary sense of pleasure. Afterwards, the craving for the drug increases. These substances come to dominate the brain so much that the person loses control over their mind and body. Breathing becomes slow, and eventually, when the drug isn't available, the person often becomes irritable or anxious. After taking the drug, they feel calm and satisfied. This is what we call addiction. Which people are the alarm bells for risk of addiction? When the poison of drugs enters a person's body, it destroys them from within. 1. In homes where parents are often absent or there are constant quarrels, the children are at high risk. They lack confidence and cannot develop a strong personality. This weakness makes them easy prey for addiction, and they quickly fall under the influence of others. Because of friends or relatives, they may come into contact with drugs. In some cases, they even become willing to sell their own wife for drugs, and may even get involved with guns at the point of a weapon for drugs. 2. Children who are aggressive or hot-tempered and lack the ability to handle criticism or challenges are at risk. Weak and shy children, unable to cope with life's pressures, may turn to drugs as an escape and head toward death. 3. Text missing, garbled and original, likely continues risk factors. 4. Children who have no beneficial activities or opportunities to channel their energy seek escape and may find drugs. 5. In divorced families, the person who usually provides attention and care is the mother. When that care is lacking, children take advantage of the gap and move toward drugs. 6. Like attracts like. By this proverb, children in bad circles of friends become victims of addiction. 7. Songs, films, and dramas all encourage children toward drug use and push them onto the path of destruction. The spreading of drugs in society every day, 10 deaths occur due to drug use. The harmful effects of these substances are extremely dangerous and long-lasting, opening the road to serious complications and gruesome outcomes. Tobacco smoke is very harmful to health. Despite knowing its harms, using it has become almost a fashion. It leads to cancer, lung diseases, tooth decay, respiratory and stomach problems, intestinal diseases, and blindness. Between ages 15 and 20, experimental use may begin due to curiosity or bad company. Between 20 and 30, it becomes a firm habit. Between 30 and 40, it affects blood flow and damages the lungs. Risks of diabetes increase. Between 40 and 50, chronic respiratory and cough diseases become permanent. Nervous and brain disorders can render the body useless. Tobacco use is increasing rapidly, and young people are becoming ensnared by it. It is said to be a sweet poison that slowly hollows a person from within and eventually takes their life, increasing the risk of cancers of the throat, stomach, intestine, and mouth, and diseases of the kidneys, lungs, and blood. Among those who use tobacco in some form, one person dies every 6 seconds. Women die from mouth and lung cancer as well. Alcohol. Alcohol affects not only the liver, but also the brain. In those who become addicted, the effect on dopamine in their brain increases dramatically, by 40% to 360%, making them dependent on alcohol. Cocaine. Its use is rapidly increasing among people aged 25 to 30. Crystal meth, methamphetamine, ice. This is a man-made, dangerous drug that looks like crystal or glass. It is extremely harmful and is wrapping many young people in its grip. It is made from dangerous chemicals. It severely damages the central nervous system, CNS. Since the central nervous system acts like a control station and controls bodily activities, meth affects it directly. Dopamine, a precious neurotransmitter that produces feelings of happiness, is hijacked. Meth forces brain cells to release roughly 100 to 1,000 times more dopamine D. How did this small country manage to survive and avoid being invaded during World War II, right in the heart of a burning Europe and completely surrounded by the Third Reich and its allies? Well, there are several reasons, and the first one, of course, is geography. Switzerland is literally hidden in the mountains. Its territory is covered by the Alps, and the mountain passes act as natural fortresses. Despite this, Switzerland understood that it couldn't match the Third Reich in manpower and military equipment. So in response to Hitler's invasion plan, the country developed its own defense plan, not to hold the borders, but to fall back deep into the inaccessible Alps, where hundreds of forts, tunnels, and bunkers were ready, and every bridge and railway was mined. It was clear that the invasion of Switzerland would have been too costly, and the country had something more valuable to offer: its neutrality. Back in 1815, right after the Napoleonic Wars, Switzerland officially declared its permanent neutrality, and since then, it hasn't taken part in any of the more than 100 military conflicts in Europe. When the war began, the currency of Nazi Germany and its allies was no longer accepted anywhere in the world. So Swiss banks became a convenient way to convert currency into Swiss francs and use them in international trade. Moreover, a large portion of the gold looted by the Nazis was also sold to Switzerland, then melted it down and resold it as neutral Swiss gold. This controversial but long-standing neutrality is directly linked to the unique decentralization of power. Switzerland is made up of 26 cantons, each functioning almost like an independent state. It's the world's largest country with no official capital at all, and all key functions are spread across its territory. For example, the government is based in Bern, international diplomacy is centered in Geneva, the Supreme Court is located in Lausanne, and the National Bank is in Zurich. Then normal. This affects bodily movements. The person may want to lie in a corner and do nothing. When the drug's effects wear off and dopamine is no longer released, an intense craving returns, and the user suffers severe headaches when deprived of the drug. 15 years ago, only 3% of people used it, but now its numbers have rapidly increased, including school children. Today, roughly 40% are reportedly using it. Young people are turning to it to escape exam pressure, unemployment, or family stress. Meth becomes addictive from even a single use. A single crystal meth dose costs around $6,000, currency unspecified. It is becoming popular among youth party culture. Most users are around 20 years old. Heroin. Heroin is one of the most preferred substances among addicts, and it can increase dopamine's effect in the brain by 200 times. Sleeping pills. Instead of treating sleep problems properly, people rely on sleeping pills and slowly become addicted. This affects parts of the brain, and long-term use can be lethal. Cognitive abilities are impaired, and risks for breathing-related sleep disorders increase. Sometimes the risk of heart attacks and cancer rises by 50 times and 35% respectively. Note: figures quoted in the original text, translated as written. The reality of addicts' promises in treatment. Addicted people often say, "We won't do it again. Nothing will happen. We'll stop whenever we want." With such words, they enter this world and fall into the swamp of destruction. They can be treated and freed from this habit, but they are often unwilling. They need counseling and regular, better medical care. It is not right to beat an addicted person into quitting. The role of parents and family is crucial. Addicts usually have low self-respect and weak willpower in their own eyes, so their minds remain constantly in turmoil and they cannot quit. They must be made to realize